episode 172, IRONMAN World Championship with Missy Norcross. Welcome to the pursuit of the perfect race. I'm Coach Terry Wilson, and with each episode, I bring stories of athletes to you that share their experiences at races in order for you to learn how to have your perfect race. We will hear stories from athletes of all ages, abilities, and races of all distances. So regardless of where you fit in, there's something in it for you. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now let the pursuit begin. Hey everybody, welcome back to the pursuit of the perfect race. Today I have the pleasure of talking with Missy Norcross about her recent race at the IRONMAN World Championship in Kona, Hawaii. This race took place on October 13th, 2018, where she had a time of 11 hours, 21 minutes, and 55 seconds. She's been doing triathlons for many years. The temperature on race day was 72 and rose to 82, which was a fairly cool day at Kona, and the water was in the 80s this day. Welcome back to the show, Missy. I look forward to hearing about your race at Kona.
Hi, thanks. Happy to be back.
Awesome. So what was it like actually getting to Kona? I mean, this was pretty fun. I heard about the qualifying and then Maine and then your training leading up to this a little bit, but how is all this going for you?
Yeah, it was great. It was really exciting. I mean, I was just super excited to get the opportunity to be there and, just thinking about it all through training. And I spent a lot of hours in my basement on the trainer, just watching videos from, past years of, anything I can get my hands on, from pro videos to just, age groupers who put their little montages on YouTube, anything I could get my hands on to have a look at the course or get some ideas about, how to just mentally prepare. I was doing all of that in my free time. And, it was really helpful to just kind of help me picture what the race was going to be like. And also just really exciting to see, all that footage and then to get out there and actually see the venue and see the courses, with my own eyes. It was just a really cool experience, to be a part of. Yeah, it was awesome.
Wow. So you won Maine 70.3, and we did an interview on that. And then How was your training since then?
It was good. I had some really strong sessions. I know I've talked before about, I'm the kind of athlete who never misses a workout, and I always pride myself on that. And then of course, and building up to basically the biggest race ever, I got sick. And so I got, I have two little kids. They're 5 and 7. They both went back to school in September. And they were in school for a week and had the back to school cold, which happens every year. But then, of course, I got the back to school cold after that. And so I had my last really long ride before Kona. I had a 6-hour, I think a 6:05 ride, and then a 1-hour run off the bike that I was supposed to do. And it was just the worst ride ever. I've never had such a terrible ride. And I didn't, I knew I had a cold, but I think I was just trying to pretend that I wasn't sick and just power through. And, by 2 hours into the ride, I just had a migraine and I was just so congested I could hardly breathe. And I'm trying to do this ride with all this climbing, and it was just a struggle. And of course, all of my friends that I usually train with have wrapped up their tri-season, so I was out there by myself, which wasn't, no one likes to go on a 6-hour ride by themselves. So yeah, it was awful. I had to pull the plug. I didn't do the run. I got back to the car after that ride and just put the seats down and slept for an hour. It was really just awful. So that was an interesting experience because I've never had to miss a workout like that before, especially such a big workout before such a big race. And, everybody kind of assured me, oh, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. It's one day. It's not a big deal. And it totally wasn't. I was able to pick up the next week, and I didn't feel like I had lost fitness or anything like that at that point. But, it was just interesting that I've had such smooth training for all the races that I've done this year. And then of course, leading up to the big one, I have this huge speed bump where I just, felt awful. But anyway, I was able to get over it and get back on track. So that was okay.
Wow. So did you beat yourself up mentally because you missed that workout?
I mean, a little bit. I'm a perfectionist, and I hate to skip a workout. I never do it. So it was definitely, I think, mentally, I was just hard on myself, and I didn't beat myself up over it for too long. I got up the next day and I had just an easy spin on the trainer and then a 2-hour run. And I really had a fantastic run the next day, one of my best. I think I ended up running just over 18 miles or so. And it was one of my strongest 18 milers that I've ever done, probably because I had not exerted myself as much as I usually do on the ride the day before. But, as soon as I got through that run, I kind of was like, okay, I've got, it was fine. I can let it go. I'm still fit. I didn't lose all my fitness in one day. So I just think the balance of that helped me to kind of feel better, but it definitely made for an interesting weekend. There were a lot of highs and lows that weekend for sure.
Wow. So going into Kona, what was your longest swim, bike, and runs? I mean, I know you did Lake Placid and you're already at the Ironman fitness level.
Yeah.
You did the 70.3 to kind of like test out everything, knock some rust off, basically. Then you win that. But were you doing a lot of longer intervals as well?
So it was interesting. It was different. In my previous lead-ups, I've always done like a 3-week build and then a 1-week kind of recovery week. And it just didn't work out that way. I mean, I think for a couple of reasons. Number one, like you said, I already had that fitness built. So it wasn't really a matter of building fitness. It was more, I think, just I needed to maintain my fitness level that I already had, tighten things up a little bit, but also not exhaust myself in the process. Because it's been a long season. I've been training since, like the second week of January or so. Was when I started training for Lake Placid. And I've been racing. I had my first race of the year in March. I raced the Boston Marathon. I did, the 270.3. So it's been a really long season. So I think it was just a balance of, getting me from my last race in Maine, which was at the end of August, just through to the start line, maintaining my fitness, maybe trying to pick up fitness just a tiny bit, but also balance that with just not completely burning out because it had been such a long season. So I think we managed that with, we kind of decreased the training cycle a little bit, and I was more doing like 2 weeks on and then a week of recovery instead of 3 weeks. But I had 2 weeks where my peak was, I think 21 hours the first week and then 24 hours. The second week is when I had to skip that 1 hour run. So I ended up doing about 23 hours, but still, so 2 really high volume weeks. And then I had, 1 recovery week and then like a mini build of about 16 and a half hours. And then it was race week. So yeah, I mean, it was a lot, but I didn't feel burnt out and I still felt really excited. I mean, I think it's hard not to feel excited going into Kona. So I didn't feel too mentally burned out, which I think can be a big challenge with a long season. I was still like, my head was in it. I was ready to go. I was excited. So, I had a couple of weeks where I did, like a 4,000 workout in the pool. I think my longest might've been 4,500. I did that 6-hour ride, which was like about, I don't know, maybe 105 miles. And then my longest run was 18-ish.
Wow. So you actually went faster on race day than you did in training. I mean,
in the swim?
105 miles in 6 hours versus 112 in 5:48.
Yeah, I mean, I always race faster. I don't know what it is. I get out there and ride. On all my training rides, I ride 17 and a half miles an hour. Like, it doesn't matter how long I ride, what the climbing is. Every ride, I manage to average 17 and a half miles an hour. Then I go out there on race day and I average like 19. So I think it's just having people out there to chase and knowing that people are behind you. Just that race mentality really pushes me to just push myself a little harder on the bike than I do when I'm, just with friends or by myself.
Yeah. So to actually talk about some things that have changed as far as equipment goes, you got a new bike because you qualified for Kona.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I got a new bike through the company that I train with, QT2 Systems, has a partnership with Quintana Roo. And so if you qualify for Kona, they have like a really sweet discount program for the bike. So I was able to upgrade. I was riding a hand-me-down Guru that they don't even make anymore that I got from a wonderful friend who happens to be just about the same size as me. So I was able to take her bike, which was great. And that's a great little bike. I got to Kona on that bike, so it was fabulous. I love that bike. So now that's my trainer bike. She just stays on the trainer. And I've got my new Quintana Roo PR6. It's got all Di2 electronic shifters, Dura Ace components. It's got, I don't know, disc brakes. I got a set of 302 zip wheels for race day. So yeah, she's a really sweet ride. It's a really, really, really nice bike.
Wow. So to talk a little bit about the logistics getting to Kona.
Yeah.
When did you actually book the flights, the hotel, the rental car, all of that fun stuff?
I booked everything 2 days after Lake Placid. So
wow.
Yeah, because Placid is a pretty late qualifier. And so as soon as I knew I was going, I just got on the computer and booked everything because I didn't want to miss out. I wanted to make sure we got a place and we got tickets and all that.
Okay, so what airline did y'all use? And did y'all fly out of Boston?
We flew out of Boston, yep, and we flew United.
Okay.
Yeah.
So y'all went, what was the trip like? Did y'all go from Boston
to
Atlanta?
We went from Boston to San Francisco, and then from San Francisco to the Big Island. And then on the way back, we went from the Big Island to LA, and then LA back to Boston.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a long day. We brought my kids. I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, and my parents came as well, which was super helpful. So I was worried about how the kids would do on the flight, but they did amazing. They were like the best kids ever.
Wow. So how much were the flights?
So for the total of all of us to go, it was about, I think, 2,600 or so, which wasn't crazy. I didn't think for 6 round trip tickets. But yeah, it's not cheap, that's for sure.
Wow. And where did y'all stay at? Did y'all get an Airbnb?
I got a condo through VRBO. We stayed about 5 miles south of Kona in the town called Kihau. I'm probably saying it wrong, but it was Kihau. But yeah, so we stayed in a little condo complex. It was nice. We had some issues. The air conditioning didn't work in the condo that we rented, which was not ideal. But that's okay. We were gone for most of the day while it was really hot and there were ceiling fans, and it does cool down pretty nicely at night there. So it wasn't too bad for sleeping, which was what I was most concerned about. We also had a bit of a cockroach issue in the condo. So let's just say they're not going to get a great review from me when I go back on VRBO and write it up. I wouldn't stay there again.
Wow. How much was the condo?
It was $2,500 for 7 nights.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did y'all get a rental car? I know that they're notorious for having the Jeeps.
We did. We didn't get a Jeep because we had so many people. So we had 6 people, and we also I flew with my bike. So we had to get a car big enough to fit my bike in when we got there. So we ended up getting a Ford Expedition, which is like a Suburban, enormous, but it was actually a super nice car. It was a super nice car. A gas guzzling, like, environmental nightmare of a car, but it fit everybody, and it was really nice. It was nice.
Wow. So was that expensive to get a rental car there versus?
Yeah, it was about $1,000. Yeah, it was about $1,000 for the car for the week.
Wow. So as far as the food there, how was the food once you got there?
The food was great. There are just a ton of great places to eat, especially in Kona itself. There's just about maybe like a 2 or 3 mile strip there of just, touristy shops and restaurants and stuff like that. So it was expensive. Everything in Hawaii is expensive, no matter what island you go to. I don't feel like they did anything like jacking up their prices just to take advantage of the fact that there were so many tourists in town. I think it's just, you go to Hawaii, it's going to be expensive to buy food and go out to eat. But we ate at some really great places. A couple of places everybody told me that we had to go to. There's a place called Basic Cafe where you can get an acai bowl like the size of your face. So we went there a couple of times. Those were awesome. We went to the Poke Shack, where you can get, the poke is like, it's kind of like a tuna ceviche, with, rice and sides and all sorts of things. That was incredibly delicious. And then we just went to a couple of really good restaurants, Loco Moco, and we went up after the race back up to Hawaii for the day, and they have a 100% gluten-free and vegan restaurant up there called Sweet Potato Cafe. That was really delicious, and my 7-year-old has celiac disease, so she can't have gluten. So to find a restaurant that was 100% gluten-free where she could just order anything off the menu that she wanted was really a treat for her. So that was nice. So yeah, we ate well out there. It was good.
Wow. So when did y'all actually go to Kona, and when did y'all come back?
So we traveled on Tuesday the 9th, all day. We got there. We left Boston. I think our flight was around 11 in the morning, and we ended up getting into Kona at 8:15 p.m. Kona time, which was like 2 in the morning our time. So it was a really long travel day. But like I said, the kids did great, but we were all ready to crash by the time we got there. That's for sure.
Wow. So y'all got there on Tuesday night, and then
Yep.
Wednesday, what did y'all do Wednesday?
So I had to get my bike out of the bag. I bought the Skycon 3.0 soft bag, which was really nice. And it was a super nice bag to use because I didn't have to disassemble the headset at all on the bike. You just have to take the wheels off, and then there's like a steel frame inside the back and inside the bag, and you just bolt your tires on, and then bolt your wheels on and put the wheels in the pockets on the side. So I had to just get the bike put back together again, and it was mostly fine, but one of my rear disc brakes was rubbing just a little bit when I put it back together. So I didn't want to take it out for a ride until I had a mechanic look at it. I was lucky enough that the mechanic that I use at home actually flew out to Kona and was working the Quintana Roo booth at the expo. So anyway, I got the bike mostly put together, put it in the car. We went down to the swim venue I did a short swim in the water there. And then I took my bike over to him when the expo opened at 9, had him look at the brake. I think I had an hour and 20-minute ride. So I went out on the Queen K and did the ride, and then left my bike there with the guys at Quintana Roo and went out and did a short run. So that was it. And then we just hung by the pool for the rest of the day.
Wow. So what was your first impression of swimming in the ocean there?
It was totally crazy. I think that was probably like the biggest kind of, I don't want to say like panic moment that I had, but just that was when the excitement level like really shot from like, I was already at like a 5, and it just shot to like a 25, just walking up to the beach that morning and seeing, it is just covered with people. We were there at 6:30 in the morning, and there were probably 200 people in the water and another 200 people just standing there watching everybody in the water. And Gatorade sets up a booth where you can do a bag drop, and they're giving away free Gatorade, so you don't have to worry about your stuff. It's just like this huge event, and it's just for a practice swim. It was crazy. So, that was really exciting, and I definitely felt the nerves and the butterflies then. But once I got in the water and started swimming, I felt better, and I felt more like myself. It was pretty choppy. There was like a high wind and surf advisory all the days leading up to the race. So everybody talks about how swimming there, it's like crystal clear water and you can see all the fish and everything like that. But the water was just kind of full of sand those first couple of days because it was so choppy, and like big swells. And the other thing that was crazy too is that, usually swimming open water, and even like where I swim, I just swim at a local lake and there's not very many people there, but there's like this understanding that, you swim to the right. And so I was swimming to the right, but I think it's just because, number one, there were so many people, and then also because there's such an international contingent in the pool of people doing the race that, this kind of idea of what's the right side of where's the right place to swim so you're not swimming head on into other people. Everybody's got a different idea of what that was. So there were just people everywhere swimming every direction. It was like total chaos in the water. So I just tried to not hit anybody, and I managed to do that. So that was pretty good. But yeah, it was really fun. And once I got out of the water, I just felt like I had calmed down a little bit and got that kind of first Kona workout out of the way. But yeah, it was really exciting. It was really cool to be there.
Wow. So then you actually go to the expo for the first time.
Yep.
What was this like?
Yeah, it was awesome. That expo it's just huge. There's, vendor upon vendor upon vendor, and like all the big names, Garmin and Cervelo and Wadi and Wahoo and Rudy Project, and just, like all the big names, and everybody's there, and everybody, has got all their cool stuff laid out. And I wanted to just spend, 4 hours walking around and shopping and checking everything out. But it's also, the middle of the day and 90 degrees and you're sweating. And so, I definitely had a chance to kind of quickly go through and look at everything, but I didn't want to spend too much time there because I just didn't want to be on my feet all that much. But it was cool. Yeah, we walked around and saw everything. So it was fun.
Wow. So when did you actually check in at the village?
So I checked in on Thursday. You can check in anytime between 9 and 2. Thursday was the last day to check in as an athlete. And so I did that. So Thursday, similarly, I had a workout, just another short swim, bike, run. So I got that done. And then I went over to the, I think it's the Courtyard Marriott there that is the host hotel, and did the check-in. So that was great. And they have, I think I was actually probably one of the later athletes to arrive in town, and then also to go to check-in. So there was no line or waiting. There were tons of volunteers. So yeah, it was really smooth. I went through. I got signed all the paperwork that you have to sign. Got all of my numbers and stickers for the bike. Got my backpack. And that was it. It only took maybe 10 or 15 minutes to get through and get registered for the race.
Wow. So what all kind of swag did you get for doing the race?
So we got a really cool backpack. I was excited about the backpack going into it because I know, for half Ironman distance, you get like a little tiny backpack. And then for full Ironman distance, you get like a real size backpack. And then for Kona, we got a huge backpack. It's really cool. It's got, the 40 Years of Dreams logo on it. And then inside there was a beach towel and a whole envelope of just like coupons and protein samples and a sample of Clif Blocks and a Clif Bar and a Red Bull and, all the usual stuff that you get in the bag. But I thought that the full-size beach towel and the bag itself were really, really cool swag.
Wow.
Yeah.
So whenever you actually got back to your condo that day and put all your stuff on your bike, I'm assuming, how were your nerves for that?
I didn't feel too nervous then. I mean, I think just once I, did my workouts and I kind of got over the fact like, okay, I'm actually here. I know what everything looks like. My bike is fine. I feel pretty good. I was a little worried how I might feel with the time change, but I was okay. Like I was feeling normal. Everything in my workouts felt normal. And so I think that just really helped to kind of calm me down. And I didn't ever get really super anxious, about it. And also, you're just kind of on island time and my family was off, at the beach and like doing all this, fun vacation-y stuff. And I was just, sitting around with my feet up, enjoying the view, reading a book. So it was pretty easy for me to stay relaxed.
That's awesome. I know, to back up a little bit, before you even left, you had put out a question about what kit to wear for the race.
Yes.
What kit did you end up wearing?
I did end up wearing the Wadi kit. So I bought the Wadi speed suit. And the other kit that I had bought was a Zoot suit, and it was like one of their specials for Kona. So it was a little more festive. It had like a palm tree vibe. I think it said Aloha on the back. But I ended up going with the Wadi. It gave me a little more coverage, like in the sleeve and in the leg. And people that I've talked to, including you, just mentioned, you're not going to be mad at having a little bit more skin covered on that really hot day. So for that reason, and then also the kit that I had been wearing, my kit that through QT2 Systems for the team is a Wadi kit also. But it's sleeveless and it's black, so that's why I didn't want to wear it on race day. I just thought I wanted a little more coverage than the sleeveless, and I just thought the black was going to absorb too much heat, so I wanted the lighter color. But also I'm used to just the seams and the chamois in the Wadi kit, and so I thought, it would just be a smart decision to kind of go with that brand. And I am so happy that I did. That is an expensive kit, but it's worth every penny. It does not move. Like, it didn't bunch, move, twist, chafe, nothing for the whole day. So I'm really, really happy with it. I can't wait to race in it again. It's a great kit.
Wow.
Super comfy. Yeah.
So whenever you actually got to the day before the race, are you altering your nutrition plan at all? I know in the past you've done the big pancake breakfast and all that fun stuff. Are you still trying to do that, or are you doing something else?
I mean, I virtually just copied the same nutrition plan that I had going into Placid. and just tried to get my carbs in. So I've talked about before, I just need to eat a lot of carbs. I'm totally on board with the carb load. So I tried to hit about 500 grams of carbs on Thursday and Friday, the 2 days before the race. It was a little more difficult on Thursday because I did do a little snorkeling trip with the family. So we were out for a part of the day, but I got my Gatorade in, and I got my rice in for lunch and that kind of stuff. And then Friday, my husband is really good. The day before the race, he took the kids off. I didn't really see family for the whole day. He came back when it was time to go drop my bike off. And that was it. So, I had gone to the supermarket on Thursday and I got everything that I needed. And I just kind of stayed home and cooked my own meals, on Friday, just oatmeal and bagels for breakfast. And then my snacks and meals were just rice and chicken and like a little bit of vegetable just to get a little something green in there. But I keep it really, really basic and did virtually the same thing that I did the day before Lake Placid.
Wow. So what's it like having a husband like Robbie that actually understands the importance of this event? And hey, the day before the race, look, you do you. I'll get all this other stress off of your plate. You do you. I'll be back for maybe a key moment here and there, but I got everything else. What's it like having that?
I mean, it's awesome. I don't know how people do it with somebody who doesn't understand. I mean, it's so awesome just through all the training because I feel like it just takes so much time. It's a lot of time, and especially on the weekends that I'm away from the family. And, he's got his own training to do, and we get a lot of help from my parents also who live with us. And, they take the kids in the weekends in the morning when I'm off, on a 6-hour ride and he's off running. It basically runs 20 miles every Saturday, if not more. So he's off doing that with his team and his running buddies. But yeah, I mean, it's just really nice having somebody who understands, he's not going to give me a hard time about being away. We're not going to fight about how much time I'm spending away. Like, he understands if you want to do a race of this distance, that it's going to take a lot of time training. And it's just kind of takes a bit of a weight off my shoulder because I don't feel like I need to apologize. He doesn't make me feel guilty. Like, he totally understands that if this is what you want to do and you have to be prepared for it, that this is the time that it's going to take. And it's just, we just kind of have this understanding between the two of us that this is what we do and this is the time that it takes. And it's really not even a question or something that we like even have to talk about or discuss in that way. We just kind of go over what everybody's plan is for the weekend, what the training is going to be for that weekend, and we just make it work. It's just a part of our lives. It's just the way that our life works and how we plan our time and our weekend. And he totally understands, the day before a race I need that time to just lay around and relax and kind of be by myself to kind of get in the right headspace. And he takes the lead and takes the kids and goes off and does what he needs to do. And when it's his turn to race, I do the same thing for him. So, I think it's just really helpful that we understand, what an athlete needs the day before a big race. And then we're able to provide that for each other, which is great.
Yeah. I mean, that's full support of the other person.
Yeah, exactly. Well, totally. And he wants to see me succeed as much as I want to succeed. And the same goes for him. And so, we just do what we have to do to make it happen for the other person. So yeah, it's great. It's really nice. So
the day before the race, that's when bike check-in. What time did you actually go to bike check-in?
So they split it up based on your number, and they do two groups. The first group I think was from like 12 to 2, and then my group was from 2:30 to 6. So I think we ended up down there around maybe like 3 or 3:30. So there wasn't a big crowd at all. It was super cool. I didn't really know what to expect. But there was like a crowd of people there just watching everyone drop off their bikes. And they, pros are coming through and there's like a little stage and they're announcing, not even just the pros, but like noteworthy age group athletes who are coming through. I think when I was going through, there was like one of the youngest female athletes, was going through and checking her bike. So all the announcers were talking about them, but it's like red carpet service the whole time you're checking in your bike. It's all, and I mean like literal red carpet. It's the whole pathway is carpeted with the IRONMAN carpet. As I was walking, just to get over to bike transition, to bike check-in, there were some tents set up for different bike vendors. And so Quintana Roo had a tent there. And so they saw me coming through with my bike and they stopped me and they, wanted to talk all about how I liked my bike and how I liked my gear and where I was coming from and what my race history was and all that kind of stuff. And they gave me a t-shirt. And so that was, that was super cool. And then you just kind of walk through and, they have it set up so that every person checking in their bike gets a volunteer. You get a one personal volunteer. They walk you right over to your bike and then where your bike is going to be racked. And then they walk you through every aspect of the morning. This is where you're going to walk in the morning. You can come to your bike. You can do this, that, the other thing. Then they show you, this is where you're going to hang your T1 bag. This is how you're going to come out of the water. This is where you're going to go to get your bike. This is where your bag. This is where you're going to go into the change tent. Then you're going to come around this way. This is the quickest route that you can take to get to your bike. They walk you through all of that. And then the same thing, you're going to grab your bike. This is where you're going to bike out. And then the same thing for when you come back in, they're going to catch your bike this way. They're going to direct you that way. They'll show you where to grab your run bag here. You go back in the tent and then this is where you run out. I mean, they really walk you through in very detailed, taking your time, answering any questions that you might have, and really make sure that you know how it's all going to work when you're in transition, in race mode, and during the day, the next day. And so that was really cool. And then that's it. Then you walk out, and it's over, and you take a bunch of pictures. But it was super cool.
Did you take a lot of pictures?
I did. I took pictures, and my husband took pictures as I was walking in, and then coming back out again. So yeah, it was awesome. We got a lot of shots.
Wow. So after you checked your bike in, what'd you go and have for dinner?
So I went and had just white rice and plain grilled chicken, and maybe about half of a zucchini, all chopped up with lots of salt. And that's it. Pretty plain, pretty basic, but got the job done.
Wow. So the day before the race, what did you have a mindset of going into this race? Did you want to hit a certain time goal? Did you want to have a certain race day pan out? Or what was this like for you?
I didn't really have a time goal in mind. I just wasn't sure how my body was going to react with the conditions. And I didn't want to just put pressure on myself. I think that the biggest obstacle in Kona is getting to Kona. And so I didn't want to put all this pressure on myself to meet a certain time or to have these goals. I just wanted to be in a mind frame that I was going to just have less pressure on myself and just kind of enjoy the day. Because like I said, the hardest part is getting there, and who knows if I'll have the opportunity to go back. So I just wanted to make sure that I was taking it all in and enjoying it. And really being grateful for being there, because there are just so many people I know who would just kill for a spot on that start line, and just to be able to be there and experience it all. And I wanted to just be really mindful of the fact that it's such a gift to be there, and just to be really thankful and really take it all in and try to enjoy it. And those were really the most important things that I was trying to think of leading into the race. And I was actually reading, to try to relax myself, I was reading Dina Castor's book that I borrowed from a friend. And that was really good. I don't know if you've read it, but it's really great. And just, she talks a lot about being mindful and being grateful and approaching each day and each workout and everything about a race with just gratitude, and helping and trying to stay really grounded in that kind of gratitude mind frame. So I was really just trying to be mindful of that and just be really thankful to be there and stay in a positive place in that way. So, I didn't have time goals in particular. Of course, I wanted to finish. I knew I would finish. And I wanted to have a good day and feel good and not suffer very much. And I kind of figured I would be somewhere between 11 and 12 hours, and that's where I ended up. So yeah, I didn't have crazy goals. I just wanted to enjoy it and have fun and make the most of the opportunity.
Okay. Now, what's the name of Dean Castor's book?
I can't even think of what it's called. It's in the other room. I can go grab it, or I'll send it to you afterwards.
That's fine.
Yeah, but it's really good.
All right. So whenever you got ready to go to bed, you set an alarm for the next morning. Being that you're staying a little bit further away, did y'all have to worry about parking? Did you worry about parking? What was this situation like?
No, so Ironman ran a shuttle bus there was a drugstore like a quarter mile away from where we were staying, and they ran a shuttle bus from the parking lot of the drugstore all the way down into town. So I just had to wake Robbie up so he could drive me the quarter of a mile to get to the drugstore. And then I just hopped on the bus. So I woke up at around 3:30, and then the bus started running at 4:30, I believe. And so I had actually a friend that I met. We qualified together in Lake Placid, who was staying just across the street from us at another condo complex. And so we agreed to meet in the drugstore parking lot at 4:15 and get on the bus together. So we did that. And it was super easy. We were like the first ones on the bus. We picked up a few people along the way. And I mean, we were down in transition by the time it opened at 4:45.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how much sleep do you think you got the night before this?
I didn't get a ton of sleep. I tried to lay down early. I think I was laying down probably around 9. And I did sleep, but I was awake probably like every hour, just kind of checking the clock and making sure I wasn't sleeping through my alarm. And, so by the time 3:30 rolled around, I was just jumping out of bed, ready to go.
Wow.
Yeah.
So whenever you got to transition,
yeah,
what was your first impression of transition? What was the atmosphere like?
So it was super organized. There were so many volunteers. It seemed like more volunteers than racers, like volunteers just waiting to help you, which was really cool. So we just walked in and we went over to body marking, and they everybody gets the tri-tats for Kona, and they had all these people set up with tables, and the volunteer applied my tattoos for me, which was really nice. And then we just walked over to our bikes, and it was still dark at that point. The sun hadn't come up yet. And, there were a ton of pumps just hanging around. They brought in a ton of pumps so that because you can't bring your own pump, obviously, into transition unless you have somebody that would take it out for you. And I did not. And so I just found a pump hanging out on the corner. I took it over to my bike, and before I knew it, there was a volunteer there with a flashlight, holding the flashlight on my tire so that I could pump. I could see what I was doing. And took me a minute to try to figure out what he was doing. And then I was like, I didn't know if he wanted to pump the tire for me or what was going on. But then I just realized, no, he's just actually holding the flashlight so I can see what I'm doing. So that was great. And then I had a couple of changes I wanted to make in my transition bags. And they actually don't let you just go over and grab your bag. You have to walk over to that area, and a volunteer takes you to your bag, watches you, make sure you're not tampering with anybody else's bag. It's all very, very safe and very secure. And so I made those changes in my swim bag, in my T1 and T2 bags. And then I just found a place to sit on the grass and kind of hang out. I did take a spin over by the pro area in transition. I was able to grab a picture with Heather Jackson, which was super cool. She was so nice. Yeah, so that was great. And I was with my friend Rebecca, who also qualified at Lake Placid. And so we told her, we qualified with you at Lake Placid. And she was so genuine and just so happy to be there and excited to take a picture. So that was really cool. And I saw, Daniela Reeve getting her bike ready. I saw Lucy Charles in there getting her bike ready. So yeah, it was really cool. We were kind of, freaking out just watching all the pros. So that was really awesome. And then we just went and found a spot, a comfy place to sit on the grass and waited it out until we heard the cannon go off, that the pro men had started. And then we heard the pro women start, and then all the men started. And then we walked over and got ready to get in the water.
Wow. So during this time, what was your anxiety level like? Were you excited, nervous? What was it?
I really felt very calm. I was excited, but not to the point of being jittery or making myself anxious. I was excited for the day, and I didn't really feel too nervous at all. I thought maybe I would start to panic or freak out or something, but no, I just felt really relaxed. I think it was really helpful to have a friend there and just have somebody to talk to. And it was her first time as well. And, just, we'd only met each other once. And so, we just spent a lot of time getting to know each other and talking about what our race experiences had been and what we do for a living, what our families are like. And, we just had a really kind of relaxed, easy chat. So I think it was really nice to just have somebody there to talk to, because it helped us both from getting too nervous or too focused on what we're about to do. It kept it really calm and light and relaxed. But I feel like that was the general feeling in transition, waiting for the start. There was just a lot of people sitting around chit-chatting. Nobody seemed too nervous or panicky. Sometimes it can get too quiet and everybody is kind of so introspective and not saying much, but it was really light. The atmosphere in transition before the race was very light.
Good.
Yeah.
Whenever you actually, when the pros went off and then the men went off,
yep.
then it was your turn to actually get in the water with all the other females.
Yep.
What was this like for you?
It was really exciting. I've never done a mass start like that. And then number one, a mass start, and then number two, a start where you swim 150 yards out and then you just tread water and wait for the cannon to go off. So it was, just totally unique. I've never done anything like that before. It was really exciting. And there's, you're floating there and there's tons of people spectating at the swim start and there's helicopters flying above and drones and Mike Riley's on the mic talking about, you're going to be an Ironman today and all the stuff that he usually says. And then all of a sudden the cannon goes and everybody starts to swim. I don't know. It was a once in a lifetime experience. It was really cool.
Wow. So whenever you actually got to the swim start and then the cannon goes off and you really realize that you're about to start your race at Kona.
Yeah.
The race that is going to be aired many years from now, you're going to be one of the swimmers there.
Yep.
What was this like as an athlete?
It was really cool. It was just amazing to be a part of. But I got to tell you, once there was no countdown or anything, it's like all of a sudden the cannon just went off to the point where I literally, after the cannon was fired, said out loud, "Oh my God, that scared me," because it did. There's no, I expected maybe a 10-9-8 countdown or something. But it's not. It's just 1 minute you're all floating there, and then the next minute the cannon goes off. And after the cannon goes off, there's literally no time to think, "Oh, this is my race. Oh, I'm starting to swim now." It's just bodies and people everywhere. It was one of the most violent swim starts that I've ever been a part of. I was definitely swum over and held under and did the same, swum over people, and it felt like, at least for the first 10 minutes, every kick and every arm stroke was met with another body, somebody else's body. It was just like a full-on body contact for a while. And then thankfully it started to spread out. But it was still kind of swelly in the water too, so it was hard to sight. You'd have to time it just right at the top of a swell to be able to see if you were swimming towards the next buoy or not. Luckily, one of the benefits of there being that many people in the water all at once is that you can kind of just trust that if you follow all the people, you're going the right way. But at some point, I swam headfirst into a paddleboarder who was marking the right side of the course, so I got a little off track that way, and I didn't see that coming. So yeah, it was a crazy swim. Also, I have this complete phobia of jellyfish, so I was completely paranoid that I would be face to face with a Japanese man-o-war or something at some point during the swim. So I was watching out for other people and also just keeping my eyes peeled for jellyfish.
So did you use a speed suit?
I did use a speed suit. I have a Roka speed suit. And it was good, but I got to tell you, I struggled in that swim. And looking at my Garmin splits, it gives you the splits for every 500 meters. My first 500 meters was slow, which I attributed just to the combat mode of that first 500 meters until it kind of spread out. And then the next 1,500 meters were really good. I was swimming a 1:35 pace. It was great. And, at one point I looked up to sight and there was the boat, to swim around for the turnaround. I was like, wow, this is going really well. I feel really good. I'm swimming fast. This is good. And then on the way back, I think that there must have been just a current, pushing out to sea, and we were swimming against the current for the way back in. And it was like, I just hit the brakes. I just don't have enough open water swimming experience. And I do swim open water, but I swim in a lake, and it's a small local lake. And so it's
different than swimming in the ocean.
It's totally different than swimming in the ocean. And just between the current and the swells on the way back, and it had spread out quite a bit too. So it was there weren't quite as many people to draft over. And so I really struggled on the swim back. It just felt so long, and I slowed way down. And at that point, like, I had consumed some salt water. My stomach wasn't feeling 100%. So it was not the greatest experience at all for the second half of the swim. When I finally got out of the water, I was just really happy to be done with the swim.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is like an out and back. You go out, take a right, and then come back, and then you go all the way over to the swim out, which is a notorious stairs here.
Yes.
What was this like coming back? Were you able to see the bottom of the ocean? What was the views like in the water?
So yeah, it was more clear in the water than it had been for my 2 practice swims, which was nice. So that I did see some fish, some little fish. I saw a couple of men's swim caps floating their way down to the bottom of the ocean. That was a distraction for a little while to figure out what
do you mean, swim caps floating at the bottom?
Yeah, like I guess some of the men had lost their caps. I saw at least 2 blue caps just floating in the ocean.
Okay,
and
okay. I thought you actually meant like they were on the bottom.
No, they weren't. They were not
what?
attached to any bodies. No,
okay.
There were no bodies attached. It was just the caps, just lost caps. Yeah, so it was cool to see the fish and stuff like that, but it was definitely I just felt like I was swimming in slow motion, and the pier was getting closer and closer, but it was taking a really long time to get there. And then when I finally did get to close enough to the stairs, or close enough to put my feet down, just the way the waves were crashing on the shore, or in the little shoreline that is there, it's extremely small. I wouldn't even call it a beach. It's just a little, a slightly shallow area with a little bit of sand. The waves were crashing in. It was hard to stand up. I was getting knocked over. And then right at the stairs, there was just a huge hole in the ground. And so the volunteers were like calling out, "Oh, watch out for the hole." But, people were going down, and thankfully the volunteers were there, but they literally just had to kind of like pull you up the first couple of stairs. So yeah, it was tough getting out of the water there.
Wow. So whenever you got up out of the water onto the platform there, you have to take a left, go get your bag, go into the tent. You had a very quick transition in comparison of 6 minutes and 20 seconds here. What was this like for you, MT1?
So one of the things that they have too before you grab your bag is actually they have a shower area set up. And it's just basically a bunch of hoses dangling and fresh water coming out. So you have a chance to kind of, rinse the salt water off your body, which is, I thought was really good. Like I just let that water run on my face just for a second to just get that salt water like off my face and out of my mouth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was really nice. And then it's super quick to grab your bag. I was very thankful for having had the volunteer the day before when I checked in my bike kind of lead me through where all my stuff was. And I still had my wits about me enough to remember exactly where to go. And then also with only 2,500 athletes competing, the rack of bags is much smaller than at a race where there's many more athletes. And so the whole bag rack, grab your bag experience went a little more smoothly for me because it was just a much smaller area. And then
similar to Lake Placid with the racks, right?
Yeah, it is. Like the way the bags are hung are the same, but there's just far fewer. And then also the way the bags are racked at Lake Placid, you've got the top rack for your T1 bag and then the bottom rack for your T2 bag.
Right.
But here they had them separated, so it was only the bike bags, only the T1 bags, and so they were able to use the top and bottom hooks for just the bike bags, and so everything was consolidated. There were only like maybe 5 sets of racks as opposed to like rows and rows and rows of racks. And so, yeah, it just felt like much more efficient, much more compact way to grab your bag.
Wow.
And then so I just ran over to the tent and, dumped everything out, grabbed a chair, grabbed a volunteer, and all I had to do was get that. It's much easier to get the swim skin off than it is to get the whole wetsuit off. So I think that helped with a little more smooth transition. I was out of the swim skin really quickly. And then I just, put my cycle shoes on and really just had to get over to the bike. I had my nutrition was on my bike. My helmet was at my bike. So I really just had to put on my cycle shoes and get over to my bike. So it was a pretty smooth transition.
Good. Now, whenever you actually got to your bike and you got out onto the bike course,
yep.
What were the first few miles like? I know that there's a hill almost right out of transition, right?
So it's a little further. And if it is a hill, I mean, I don't recall there being like a big hill. There is a little hill, like maybe at mile 10 or so before you actually get out onto the Queen K. But yeah, you do this little loop through town. It's about the first about 10 miles or so of the ride are just this little loop through town. And then you kind of turn right onto Palani, which is a little bit more of a hill, and then you're taking off on the Queen K. So it almost feels like the ride doesn't really get started until you get out there on the Queen K. It's just this little jaunt through town first, which is kind of nice because that's where all the spectators are. And so I got to see my family, and I got to see a bunch of people cheering and stuff like that, which was a nice way to start the ride.
Wow. So as far as the road quality here, what was the quality of the road like for you?
The quality of the road was great. It's really like a main highway that you're out there on. And so the training rides that I did were a little dicey just because you have to stay over in the shoulder. And it's a really big shoulder, but it's like a 45 to 50 mile an hour road with a lot of trucks on it. And so it was a little nerve wracking on the training rides, but on race day, the whole road is closed down. So you've got a lot of space, to move around, and the road quality was good. It was, a lot of what looked like fairly fresh pavement, and not a lot of debris. I think they did a good job of kind of cleaning it off and keeping it debris free. So yeah, it was really nice road quality.
Wow. Now, as far as your goal for this bike ride,
did
you have a power, cadence, or maybe an RPE that you were wanting to hit throughout the race, or a tactic to kind of keep you in check so that way you don't burn up too many matches on the bike ride and save some for the run? What was this like for you?
Yeah, so I just had a heart rate goal. Basically, I wanted to keep my heart rate in either the top end of zone 1 or the bottom of zone 2 for the duration of the ride. Because like you said, I knew, especially in the heat of the day, that if I went too hard on the bike, it was really not going to pan out well for the rest of my day. Or even, if I went too hard in the first half of the ride, it would be a really painful second half of the ride. And so I did. I just kind of kept my heart rate in that range, and tried not to let it get too high above that. And I did a pretty good job. My heart rate stayed, right where it needed to be.
Okay. So as far as your actual heart rate goals, what was your max heart rate that you wanted to be at, and what was your lowest that you wanted to see?
So I tried to stay like around between like 135 and 145 for the duration of the ride, and I think I ended up averaging over the course of the ride probably about 138 or so. So it's pretty much right where I wanted to be. I think I maxed out maybe around 150 or so on a couple of the climbs, and then probably dropped down, into the 120s on some of the downhills and easier segments where I was able to get a little bit of a rest. But yeah, for the most part, I was working right where I needed to be.
Okay. Now, for this bike ride, did you use an aero helmet or just your normal training helmet?
I have a road aero helmet, so it's like a hybrid, half road, half aero. So it's a little bit of the aero shape, but not
no
a
fin,
super.
No tail.
Yes, no tail. Right. It comes to a little bit of a point on the back. It's the Bontrager Ballista helmet. It's really nice. I like it.
Wow. Now, how was the wind on the course?
So the wind, there was no wind, which was crazy because everybody talks about the wind on the Queen K, and I just think we got such a great day for riding. It was really hot, and we did have a little bit of wind on the ride out to Javi, which I think is normal, but I think where it usually gets dicey is the trade winds that blow in as it gets later in the day, and then so you get a little bit of a headwind on the ride out, and then you turn around for the ride back, and normally you're getting all the crosswinds and the trade winds for the day on the ride back, which can be really challenging, but the wind basically went away, and if anything, we had a tailwind on the ride back from Javi, which was awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
So whenever you actually think of the sights, the sounds, the smells, the excitement in the air there on the bike ride for the first 10 miles, how was this? What does this look like for you as an athlete experiencing this?
Oh, I mean, it was awesome. And I just was really excited to be out there and like seeing other athletes, especially after the long swim. Because I feel like the swim is so isolating and you can see other people there, but you can't talk to anybody. You can't interact with anybody. You can't even smile at a volunteer. You're just kind of completely isolated there in the water. And so, to be out on the course and to see people out cheering and to see other athletes on the course, that was really fun and probably one of the highlights of the day, just kind of getting out there and really feeling that kind of race energy and the excitement from everybody being there. And, you can hear the announcers, and there's one particular place on the course. It's called the Hot Corner, and it's called the Hot Corner because the cyclists go by on the way out through town and then on the way back as before we head out on the Queen K, and then on the run you run by 4 times. And so it's like the big activity corner, and they've got a separate announcer there who's kind of shouting out names and numbers and where people are from as you go by. So there was a lot of energy and excitement on that corner. So that was a really fun part of the ride too. So yeah, it was a real boost to see people, to see family, to see all the excitement and all of that before you kind of head out onto the Queen K for the longer part of the ride, which is a little, aside from the aid stations, is very isolated as far as spectators go.
Wow. Well, let's go ahead and talk about the nutrition plan that you had before the race and how that changed during the race. So before you actually started this race, what was your nutrition plan for the bike?
So normally my nutrition plan for the bike is to try to get down about 30-ish ounces of Gatorade an hour, which in my opinion has always been a very aggressive plan. I don't think I've ever been able to get quite that much in. But for Kona, they tell you that you should try to double whatever your hydration goal is for a normal race, that you should try to double that for Kona. So basically my plan was to just consume as much Gatorade as humanly possible throughout the ride. And then on top of that, I just have a goo every 45 minutes throughout the ride. I have a little timer on my watch that goes off every 45 minutes and try to get that goo in. And so that was my plan. And I felt like I was drinking so much. I drank 10 bottles of Gatorade, 10 24-ounce bottles of Gatorade. But I don't think it was enough. I didn't pee the entire ride, and I know they say you should pee at least twice. And I just didn't feel like I could drink anymore. I was drinking so much. It was like nonstop Gatorade. I just could not keep up with it. I mean, thankfully, I wasn't working as hard as I think I could have been because we didn't have to battle the wind, but just the heat alone. I mean, I know that the actual temperature for the day was probably only about 85, but the feels like temperature was well into the 90s on the road. Yeah. I mean, if anything, I want to say that the feels like temperature was probably close to 95, if not hotter, especially in the sun. So, I mean, it was a sweat fest. I was sweating quite a bit, and I think I should have had more Gatorade. I just couldn't keep up with it. It's just so hard to drink that much. Right.
Now, so normally, I mean, at Maine and at Lake Placid, you wanted to hit about 250 to 300 calories per hour. Here, it sounds like you were hitting a lot more than that.
Yeah,
it wasn't enough. If you can just put a ballpark estimate on about how many calories you did eat and consume here on the bike per hour, what would that be?
Well, I want to say it's probably, I mean, there's about 200 calories in that bottle of Gatorade, and I drank 10 bottles over 5 hours. Yep, and then the goo has 100 calories in each goo, and I had 7 goos, so another 700 calories. So it's about 2,700 calories that I took in over the course of the ride.
Wow, so if we divide that by 5 3/4, that's almost 500 calories an hour, and that wasn't enough for you.
It was, I mean, from a hydration standpoint, it wasn't enough.
Wow. So you actually got 479 calories an hour. That's crazy, and that wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough from a hydration standpoint. I mean, I think take out the heat, and it probably would have been more than enough. But I was sweating it out faster than I could get it in, at least for the Gatorade.
Now, do you feel like your body adapted to that rapid change in environment, going from Boston to Kona, and saying, okay, well, you're going to start using a lot more here, or did it revolt against you? What was this like from your body's perspective? Did it adapt to it, or did it just say, no, we can't do this?
I think it was somewhere in the middle. I don't think I gave myself enough time to fully adapt. I was only there a few days before the race. But I was taking preparations in my training. I had, whenever I'm on the trainer downstairs in my basement, which is every ride all week except for my long ride, I hadn't put the fan on. So, I've been sweating it out in the basement and trying to mimic, a really warm kind of humid environment down there. Which I think paid off a bit, because I don't feel like I really suffered in the heat. But at the same time, I don't think I really thrived in the heat either. So I think I was just kind of like somewhere in the middle. It didn't totally wipe me out, but I also wasn't like totally adapted for it either. So yeah, somewhere in the middle there.
Looking back on it, though, do you think that you could have done anything more to prepare for it?
No, I think the only thing I could have done differently was just be out there earlier. If I were to do it again, I would probably try to go out. And it's just logistics and money to be out there. But if I could be out there 2 weeks before the race and get a couple of, maybe get that last long session in out there in the conditions, I think it would make a big difference.
Wow.
But yeah, just logistically, that's hard to do.
Yeah, and it's just money, right?
Yeah, and it's just money. It's money. It's time. It's family. It's everything. It's life.
Yeah, I mean, some of us have jobs and stuff. Apparently.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Jobs and kids and school and all that real life stuff. But in a perfect world, I'd go out there a month ahead of time and try to acclimatize. But there's only so much you can do in the fall in New England to keep yourself heat trained like that.
Right. I mean, heck, today it's 28 degrees.
Yes, it is. It was 28 degrees here this morning.
No.
Yeah.
It's cold. Texas. Man, so as far as the aid stations on the bike ride, how were they? Yeah. And did you use special needs?
The aid stations were great. They were every 7 miles there was an aid station, and they were very clearly labeled, water first, and then Coke, and then Gatorade, and then I think even water again, and, all the marked places where you could throw your trash and stuff like that, and really good volunteers, and I was able to get more Gatorade anytime I wanted it at all those stops, so that was nice. I did not use the special needs bag. They had, the special needs turnaround. One thing that's different about Kona versus other full distance races that I've done is that you don't get the opportunity to get that special needs bag back. So I know a lot of people will put things in there like, an extra CO2, an extra tube, a change of clothes, whatever you might think you might want halfway through your long ride. But you're not going to get it back in Kona. So I just didn't use it. I have a bike, a box on the back of my bike. So I had my tube in there and my CO2, and I had all my fuel fits in my pouch on the front of the bike. So I just didn't feel like there was anything that I needed to put in there. And so no, I didn't use it. I didn't stop for special needs. I just made the turnaround and head back.
Okay. Now, what was it like getting to Hawaii going out?
It was kind of, I had read and I had seen from my research for the course that, it's about a 6 mile climb. The last 6 miles out to Hawaii are a climb. And so I was kind of preparing myself for that. And I think I was probably like halfway through the climb before I realized, oh, this is the climb. Because it's not exactly at half on the course. You've done that original or that initial 10 miles in town first, so that you don't get to the turnaround until closer to I think it was about 60 or 62 miles before you actually make the turnaround. So it's hard to say, oh, when I hit 56 miles, that's when I'll turn around and come back. So yeah, it was kind of, and then you get to Hawaii and it is like the tiniest town ever. It's not, I wouldn't even call it a town. It's like a couple of shops. And so I didn't really even realize I was there until I saw the sign said turn around ahead. And so there we were, and I made the turnaround and started heading back.
Wow. So on the bike ride, did you use any chamois cream or anything like this?
I loaded up with some, Body Glide and some Chafex and some Vaseline before the start of the day. But nothing other than that. Like I said, I was really happy I chose that wadi suit. It was very comfortable.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know being that it's hot, you're going to sweat. You're obviously, we all talk about crotches, and it's just the hottest part of the body.
Yeah.
It's going to sweat. And
yeah,
with the salt water, and then hopefully you're going to pee in it as well on the bike ride. And, that didn't happen for you, but that's something that everybody has to consider whenever picking a kit and making
Yep.
sure it's comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that Wadi kit, it didn't shift, and I'm a pretty like lean. I'm very tall and very lean, and so I do have trouble getting a kit that fits well. And in order for me to get it long enough, sometimes it's a little bit on the bigger side. And with other, especially cycle shorts that I have, just that I use for training, they always end up riding up on my legs because I need them to be long enough for the bibs to be comfortable. But then they don't cling on my thighs quite as well, and they ride up quite a bit. But when I tell you that Wadi kit did not move, it did not move at all. It stayed exactly where I put it in the morning through the swim, and even through the ride. The legs didn't shift, bunch, or twist or anything like that. So I didn't have any extra material that might cause for any extra rubbing or chafing anywhere that it shouldn't be. So it was really, really, it was really comfortable. There was zero chafing whatsoever from that suit.
Wow.
Which was great. Yeah, it was great. It was really comfortable.
And you're right at 5'6" and 126 pounds. What size Wadi ink kit did you get?
I'm actually 5'9", so I got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it. It was funny because I measured. They have the measurements on the site, and I measured. Everything that they tell you to measure, and I measured like an extra small in the chest, and then a medium in the waist, and then like a large in the hips.
There's so many different places to measure, and
it's crazy. And
what you need.
I measured a different size in each one. So anyway, I contacted their customer service and just said I wasn't, and sent them my measurements and my height and weight, and they replied that the medium would be a good fit for my body, and they were right. It was perfect.
Wow.
Yeah.
So as far as the flats on the bike ride, did you see any flats or wrecks?
I saw, what I actually saw more of was malfunctioning DI2s, which was actually, I thought, really interesting because, everybody's moving towards this, having the electronic shifters. I have them. They're great. It's a super cool feature, but, if that malfunctions, that you're kind of going to be in trouble. And so I passed at least two people who were, I could just hear that sound. And to me, the DI2, when you press the button, it sounds like a remote control car. Like it makes a little bit of like a noise, like an old remote control car from Radio Shack would make. And so, to ride by people and you can hear them, they're pressing their buttons and it's just making like a funny mechanical sound and nothing's happening. I definitely heard that a couple of times. And I know at least one of the pros that I saw talking about the race afterwards also had a mechanical issue with her DI2s. And I think part of the problem was that we actually got some rain after everybody's bike was checked in. And so all the bikes sitting out there all night, it was a pretty significant downpour. And so the bikes were soaked. And I think that some of the DI2s shorted out in the rain the night before the race. And luckily, knock on wood, I didn't have that problem with mine. But I heard more mechanical issues with the DI2s than there were flats or anything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, whenever you actually think of the later portion of the bike ride here, miles 70, 80, 90, and 100, how are you holding up mentally? Because usually that's whenever people actually start getting lost in their own head a little bit, and you're not really close to being done, but you're over halfway. What is this like for you?
I actually stayed pretty mentally like in a good place for the ride. It was a little challenging because I felt pretty lonely out there. And, most of the time when I am in a race, I am in like the front or, middle front of the pack. And there's a lot of people around and a lot of people to pass. But in Kona, man, I felt like I was last. There was nobody out there. And so that was a little challenging. There were just not that many people. And I think it was partly because of the way they stagger the starts. And so the women are the last to start. And, at any other race, being the last to start would mean that you have a lot of people to catch up with and that you'll end up in a big group because you'll be chasing everybody else that's out there on the course. But in Kona, all those athletes are moving super fast. So I didn't really feel like I ever caught up with anybody. It was just, and the women's field was much smaller. There are only just over 600 women as opposed to, I think, over like 1,700 men. And all those men really they just flew. So I felt like I was in no man's land, just in the back of the pack. So that was really challenging. It was just really, really different than what I usually experience in a race. And I think part of the stuff that pulls you through, especially those later miles, is like if you can just, pick off one person at a time, pass one rider and then pass the next rider and then pass the next rider, it really helps give you something to think about mentally and help you to push yourself forward. But there just were no people out there. It was really kind of lonely. And so I just kind of had to focus on what I was doing on my own. And so I just started breaking the race down into 5 mile chunks, and, my watch will buzz every 5 miles. And I was like, okay, just get through these 5 mile chunks. And if you can do it in under 15 minutes. And so I just started playing a game of trying to make it through every 5 miles in less than 15 minutes. And I think I managed to do that for most of the chunks, except for, I think there was one chunk where there was a bit more climbing than the others. But I really just tried to stay focused on breaking it down into those small increments. And I think I did myself a favor in that way of not really letting myself get too far ahead and being overwhelmed by the number of miles that I had left. I just tried to take each 5 mile section as it came and try to hit that goal of doing it in 15 minutes or less. And then as I got, into the higher miles, mile 80 or so, I was able to pretty easily calculate, okay, if I can keep this up, in these 15 minutes, then I'm gonna finish this ride in 5:45, which for me was a Ironman PR ride. My strongest ride before that had been the first time I completed Lake Placid. I rode in 5:59, and so when I figured, I could ride this in 5:45, that really kept me motivated towards my goal too. I was like, how cool would that be to just get out there and have what for me was a really strong ride, even though I felt like I was the last one out there. To come in at, around 5:45, that was a really great ride for me. So I was able to keep my head in the game, for the ride, just by kind of playing those little game with the numbers. And then, luckily before I knew it, I was at 105, and I was like, okay, I've only got, 7 miles to go. I'm going to make it. And then at that point, you overlap where the run course makes the turn out towards the, energy lab. So I was able to start seeing runners on the course, and then that's when I just felt like I was back, with people and in the race and in that race kind of environment. And that really carried me through towards for the last 7 miles.
Right, because you won your age group at Lake Placid this year.
Yeah.
That was against some tough competition.
Yeah.
And you had to literally give yourself some grace here and know that this was going to be a humbling experience going into it, because if you didn't, this would be a very bad place for your ego to get in the way and set you up for failure.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I knew going into the race, my expectations were that I was going to be crushed by the weather, crushed by the course, and crushed by the competition. And not even just like to sound cute and like say those things. No, that's really what I expected. And that's what I got. And so I think having that as my frame of mind going in, I mean, I knew, like I said, it's the hard part is getting there, and I didn't want to like set these crazy expectations for myself and then leave myself in a place where I would be disappointed with my performance. And 5:45 was, I think, out of my age group of 77 people in my age group, my 5:45 personal best ride was good for maybe like 58th out of 77 in my age group. So, not even in the top half. But for me, that was a great ride, and I'm really proud of it.
Wow. So whenever you actually start getting back into town, you know that you had consumed a lot more Gatorade than you normally do. Was this worrisome for you, and how were the last few miles before you got off the bike? Hey, everybody. I just want to say thank you for listening to the podcast, and I just want to let you know that I've enjoyed having so many people on this show, and I couldn't really do it without your support. Thank you so much for tuning in, listening, and being a part of what I'm doing. If you would, take a few moments to leave me a review over on iTunes. It would help me out tremendously, and enjoy the show. Wow. So whenever you actually start getting back into town, you know that you had consumed a lot more Gatorade than you normally do. Was this worrisome for you, and how were the last few miles before you got off the bike?
Yeah, I wasn't worried. I thought I had done a pretty good job fueling. I felt pretty good. And then, I felt good getting off the bike. I handed my bike to the bike catcher, and then, and then actually one of the NBC cameras was right there, and they were asking me how my ride was and how I was feeling. So fingers crossed I'll get into the broadcast, when it airs in December. That would be so cool. But yeah, I made you have to kind of jog all the way around transition, all the way around the pier to get back over to grab your run bag. And so as I was jogging along in my cleats, I felt okay. I was like, all right, I don't feel too drained. I'm moving. I don't feel super stiff. Like, I was really happy to be off the bike, but I didn't feel completely drained. And so I grabbed my stuff and I took my time in transition. I took the time to let my heart rate come down. I took the time to, make sure my hair was out of my face. I ate my banana. I didn't rush it. And then, once I got out of the change tent, I was ready to start running. And I felt, I felt okay. I felt pretty good. I was excited to get started and get out there on the run.
Wow. So whenever you got in transition, the excitement there, I mean, at this point, the first male was almost about to finish for the pro division.
Yeah, he actually was finishing because I could hear the helicopters and the announcers announcing his finish as I was in transition. So that was pretty cool.
Wow. So then knowing that you're about to go and run a marathon and he's already almost done. Now, I mean, yeah, he's on a different category and he started way ahead of you as far as time goes. So you're not worried about that. But the excitement in the air, for you to get out on the run, what was this like? Because it's probably, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon by now?
Yeah, I don't even know what time it was. I didn't even look to see what
the heat of the day, basically.
Yeah, basically in the heat of the day. But it was super exciting. And again, being out there, that ride was like pretty isolating. So to get back out on the run and to be in transition and to actually like be around people again and to hear the announcers and to see everybody on the way out of transition and to just be around other people who were also running. It was really nice to just feel like I was, back with people and back in the fun part for a little while.
Right, because you're not all by yourself, basically.
Yeah.
So whenever you get out on the run course, what is the first mile like on the run course at Kona? What are the nerves like, the excitement? What is the energy like?
I mean, I think that the overwhelming feeling for the first mile at any Ironman is like, oh, thank God I'm not on my bike anymore. So I think that that's definitely where my head was at least for the first mile. Yes, it's hot. Yes, I'm tired. But, oh, my God, I'm so happy that I'm not on my bike anymore. That was my overwhelming feeling. And, we ran by that hot corner that I described earlier, and the announcer was there. And so they yelled out my where I was from and my name and my number, and I saw my family. And then you run out, for the first, I think you run out about 4 miles on Ali'i Drive, and it's just lined with people, and it's an out and back. And so you can see the runners coming the other way, which, again, it's really nice to just like see other people on the course. And I think that was probably the strongest part of the run for me. And then just because you're feeding off of the energy, there was a lot of energy there, to feed off and get you going. And then you go back to town and you run up Palani Drive, and it's a bit of a hill there. We also rode up it on the bike. It doesn't seem as much of a hill on the bike, but on the run it was. And then you turn and you run out on the Queen K towards the Energy Lab, and it's kind of like a huge shift because there's no more crowds, there's no more people, there's just there's an aid station every mile, but other than that, there's no spectators out there, and so it was quiet. It was quiet. The people, even the other racers, in other events that I've done, the runners are kind of are talkative and chatting and cheering each other on, and it was just like, I think everybody kind of feels that letdown if you get out of town and then you're just running out on the Queen K again, and it's quiet, it's desolate, everybody's tired, it's extremely hot, there's no shade, there's no breeze, there's nothing. It was just it was tough once you got out there. It was really tough.
Wow. So I know that this wasn't a PR marathon for you because you've obviously done Boston a few times, but when did you realize that you were going to have to allow yourself to have a little bit more grace than you expected? Because you finished in 4:03:44.
Yep.
And somewhere along the way, there had to be a shift of your mindset of saying, okay, I'm just going to need to enjoy the day right now rather than going after a PR here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't ever think I got into the mindset of enjoying the day. It was just, when I started the run, I looked at my watch and saw that my total time was 7 hours and 20 minutes, and I was maybe a mile into the run. And so I was like, okay, you know, I'm doing all right. In Placid, my run time was 3:33, which was a really good run, you know, Ironman run for me. And so I thought if I can do about the same, that would be a really great finish time. And so I, you know, started the run, and then by the time I got to about mile 10, I was just tired. And not even like, I think more mentally tired than anything. Like nothing hurt on my body. My legs felt pretty good. You know, I didn't have any sore muscles. I didn't have any blisters. I didn't have any hot spots. I didn't have any chafing. So my body felt good. My heart rate was right where it needed to be. Like I was trying to keep it like right around 140. So that's where it was. I just felt drained, and I think that was probably when the dehydration started to kick in. It was really hot. I was not sweating anymore, and I just was overwhelmingly like tired. And my you know, my mind didn't go from let's put the PR away and think about just enjoying the day. My mind went from let's put the PR away and just worry about like not laying down on the ground and taking a nap. I was just tired. So anyway, I mean, I just wanted to keep running and just make it from one aid station to the next. And then by the time I got to the turnaround, which is at the bottom of the energy lab there, it's about like 16 and a half miles or so, I was just really hurting. And I wasn't looking at my splits because I didn't want to get in my head and think, oh my God, I'm going so slow. But I did, at mile 18, decide that I would just start walking the water stops. And it was a really hard decision to make because I just didn't know if I started walking, if I would be able to start running again. And I didn't want to make the mistake of walking and then not being able to get started again. But at mile 18, I just had to do it. And so I walked the water stop at mile 18, and surprisingly, I was able to start running again. And so I just continued that part, and I was actually really proud of myself for not completely throwing the towel in. I walked the water stop so I could make sure that I got my water in. I kept up with my nutrition plan. I was taking a Cliff Block every 2 miles and a goo. I took 3 goos, one on the hour, every hour while I was out there. And I got that nutrition down during the water stops. And when the water stop was over, I started to run again. And I felt better. The portions that I was running, I actually felt like I was moving. I was energized from the water stop and from the fuel and nutrition. And so I think in the end, even though it definitely slowed down my time overall, it was a good decision to make, and that I was able to keep running. And I think my run would have been slower if I hadn't taken the walk breaks. So
Really?
it was good. Yeah, I think I would have just kind of shuffled my way through the whole thing, as opposed to, you know, walking quickly through the water stops and then actually being able to run again. And like a legitimate run, not just a shuffle. And so it was nice. And I knew the water stops are about every mile apart. And so, you know, you can run a mile. I could talk myself into running a mile, and I made it. And it was a good decision. I was happy with it.
Wow. Now, the energy lab is known for being very hot and all this. How did you prepare for this in training, or did you?
So my last 2 runs that I did at Homa was starting to get cooler. I was, you know, bundled up in full-on winter gear. You know, it was cool. You probably could have been out with like just a long sleeve, but I was out there in, you know, tights and a thermal and a long sleeve and a jacket and a hat and gloves. So I was trying to do whatever I could to just get my body to remember how to maintain itself in the heat. But, you know, the run down into the energy lab wasn't so bad. There was like a little bit of a breeze, and I remember thinking like, okay, you know, it's getting later in the day. Maybe I'm just timing it right that I'll get through this and it won't be so terribly hot. But then after the turnaround, it really was just stagnant. Like the breeze went away. It was still really warm. Luckily, it was late enough in the day that I didn't have like the sun beating down on me quite as much. And the volunteers out in the energy lab were actually handing out, they had, they weren't really towels. It was more like a mesh, like scarf almost. And they had those soaking in ice water. And every time you went by a volunteer, they just kind of draped you in one of these really cool cloths. So that was really nice. But, while I was running down there, I saw at least 2 people down on the ground, just kind of laying there. And, everybody was kind of yelling to make sure that a volunteer knew that these people were down and medical was on the way to help them. And so it was definitely kind of an eye opener to be like, this is really hard. People are going down. And, a lot of people were just walking at that point, not running at all. So I was feeling fortunate in that, I definitely wasn't feeling my best. But I wasn't feeling my worst either. I could still run. I wasn't overheating. I wasn't doing great, but I was doing okay.
Okay. Now, the special needs on the run, did you take advantage of that?
I did not. Nope, I didn't. Again, I had all the fuel with me that I needed. So I didn't feel the need to have to stop. And so I didn't.
Okay. So what was the best part of the run for you?
The best part of the run for me was the finish.
Okay. Well, besides the finish.
Yeah, it was great. I think, between miles like 18 and 24 or so, when it was really lonely, there were a lot of us out there who were doing, the walk through the water station and then the run. And I still felt like I was making progress with that. I wasn't being passed. I was still catching up to people. And so that really just kind of made me feel like I was still making progress, And then one of my favorite parts of the race is seeing the other racers and chatting with people as you go by. But everybody was suffering so much and nobody really wanted to strike up a conversation, which I can totally understand. And so what I just started doing was for the runners that were on the way out. And, so here they are, mile like 10, 11, 12. And I was just reading every name on every bib for every person that passed me in the other direction and just trying to say something encouraging, cheer them on, call them out by name, tell them that they were going to do it, that they were doing a great job, that they were going to make it. And just anything that I could do to kind of stay positive and give some positive encouragement to the people that I saw heading in the other direction. And I think that really helped me kind of mentally get in a more positive place, to just put that positivity out there for other people. I really felt it, come back to me and lift my spirits. And then, doing that, before I knew it, I was at mile 24 and I was like, okay, 24, I'm going to make it. It's going to be okay.
Wow. So giving positivity actually increases your positive mindset.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I definitely think you get back what you put out there and seeing those other people and having them acknowledge me and cheer back and share a smile or a high five along the way. It was definitely uplifting, I think, for both of us.
Wow.
Yeah.
So whenever you actually start getting back into Kona, what is this like for you?
It was super exciting. So there was a water stop, I think, at mile 24, and I made it through that one, and I thought to myself, okay, like, you're gonna run now. You're just gonna run to the finish. You're not gonna walk anymore. You're just gonna run. And it was starting to get dark, but there were still a lot of crowds out there. And as I got closer, the finish line was so loud, and you kind of like run down behind the finish line, and then you loop back around on Ali Drive and come towards the finish. So I could hear it, and at one point I ran. It must have been mile 25 or so. It was like a nice downhill, so that was really nice and refreshing. And there were a couple of men that I ran by, and they were both running, and then as soon as I passed them, they started to walk, and I'm trying to say, come on, let's go, come on, you can't walk now, we gotta go, but neither one of them wanted to run anymore, so I just, I kept going, and finally, before I knew it, I was making that last turn, and Ali Drive was just packed with people, and suddenly the finish line was in view, so it was really exciting.
Wow, so the finish chute is really long here. It's almost like a block or two long because
it's super long.
And the number of people. What is this atmosphere like? Put this into words and paint the picture of what this is like in the finish chute at Kona.
I mean, it's just incredible. It's just such a long day that's behind you, and you spend so much time, in your training and during the day on the course, just thinking like, get me to that finish, and this is definitely a finish that does not disappoint. There's just so many people, I mean, packed 5-6 people deep, and they're all calling your name, reading out your name, and telling you did it, and you did a great job, and how awesome you've done, everybody's, banging on the sides of the chute where they've got the, the posters, the cardboard posters that are on the side and making like such a loud noise. And, the lights are on, and I mean, it was just really surreal. It was incredible. It really gave me a boost, and I was able to run. But at the same time, I really wanted to enjoy it. I didn't want to just barrel to the finish because I wanted to like savor the moment as much as I could. So I made sure to like, pick my head up and look around and see all the people and hear all the sounds. And, I saw my family and I've got high fives from my kids, and it was really, I mean, it's just one of a kind. It's just amazing.
Wow. What was the emotions like for you here?
I was just so excited. Typically I'm a finish line crier, but I didn't cry this time. I think I was just overwhelmingly happy that I had made it. And I think, it was just so cool that I was like kind of just taking it all in and didn't really think to get emotional because I was just kind of so overcome with like just the scene around me at the time that it was like really kind of distracting to how my own emotions might feel during the race. So yeah, it was really exciting. It was really cool.
Wow. So as you crossed the finish line, did you think this was going to be what it was or more than what it was?
Yeah, it was, I don't know what I thought it would be, but it was great. And there were, a couple of people finishing around me, which is a little bit of a bummer because my finish line photos aren't super, it was dark and there was like a man in front of me that had a flag. I know a lot of people like to have their country flag and that's great, but if you end up behind one of those people when they're running through with their flag, it obscures your own finish line photo. So that was a little bit of a bummer, but it's like a little ramp up to the huge archway there. And I just walked and I took my time, listening to Mike Riley say my name and hearing the crowd. And the man who finished directly in front of me, he just turned around with both hands up in the air, ready for a double high five. So I double high five that guy, and I turned around to the guy behind me and double high five that guy. And we all had just kind of a little moment, the three of us just kind of standing there, taking it all in. Those few precious seconds that you get, on that finisher stage in Kona. I mean, what an experience it was. I just wanted to savor every second of it.
Wow. So whenever you actually get done, what is the finish shoot process like here? Because you don't get your medal right then, and it's a little bit of a process. Walk me through this. Yeah, so again, the volunteers are just like above and beyond, and every finisher gets 2 volunteers. So before I knew it, I had a towel on my shoulders, and they give you like a little puka shell lei. So I had that, and then I had 2 volunteers, and they walk you all the way through the chute, and they try to engage you in conversation, and I think this is their tactic to just see whether or not you need to go to medical. Yep. But they want to know where you're from and who's here watching you and how was your day and how many races have you done and everything like that. So we had a nice little chat about, all of that all the way through. They walk you back, past all the bike racks and back through the other side of transition. And then once you get past the medical tent, basically, and they are assured that you are of your right sound body and mind, they kind of let me go, and you walk over and there's a big tent and you pick up your bag that has anything you dropped in the morning. So I had a change of clothes in there. And you get your little finisher bag with your medal. You get your medal, your hat, and your t-shirt all together. And then you just walk through and get food, and they had, pizza and fries and pulled pork sliders and little hoodsie cups of ice cream. And there's actually just a bunch of grassy area, and they had little like yoga mats out everywhere, so you could just find a place to sit and relax and just take a few minutes to kind of collect yourself, I guess. Wow. Yeah. So after you got done with the race, what did you do next? Did y'all go back to the finish line after you showered, or what was this like?
So I just found a place to sit for a little while and got some food, and then I called, just the food that they had at the race, and then my husband called. I had my phone in my morning bag, so I was able to find them. I changed my clothes, and by that point, my family was just done. I mean, my kids are little, and they had just had a really long day, and they were hot, and they were sweaty, and they were hungry, and they were exhausted. So we took a little walk, and we went to IHOP, and I got a big stack of pancakes. But they were the best pancakes ever. I don't know. I haven't been to IHOP in a really long time, but kudos to IHOP. The pancakes were great. And I had really wanted to go back to the finish line for the finish line party. But I could not. Once I got the food in me, I was just so exhausted. And normally after any other race, I'm on like a bit of a caffeine high from all the goo and the sugar and everything like that. But I was overwhelmingly tired. I could not keep my eyes open. And so I managed to get back down to transition and got my bike. And then sadly, I did not go back to the finish line for the after party. I couldn't keep my eyes open. So we just went back to the condo, and I really just crashed. I was just so exhausted from the day.
Wow.
Yeah.
So looking back on it, for people that are going to go to Kona next year, what advice would you give them to take in this race?
I would say if you can get out and do some ocean swimming and get experience swimming against a current, that is really going to help you on the swim. That was definitely something that I was not prepared for. And should I have the opportunity to go back, I will try to prepare a little bit better for the next time. And then to just, I don't know, whatever you can do to kind of get yourself to heat train. I don't know that there's much you can do other than get out there and train in the heat, but, to just really hydrate as much as possible. I don't know that I could have had more Gatorade to drink. I don't know that I physically could have consumed more, but I still managed to get dehydrated. So to really get as much hydration as you can in on the ride. And then for the run, to just kind of prepare yourself mentally for it to be really lonely, even if you've got other races around you. Everybody is so drained from the day. Even on my way out to the Energy Lab, when some of the, top age group men were on their return trip back to town, were in the last 4 miles, even those guys were suffering and quiet and just kind of, painfully getting through their last few miles. So, I would just expect it to be a really long and quiet run. And so whatever you need to do to mentally prepare yourself to, to be in that place, to try to prepare yourself mentally for that. And for the lonely part of the run. So those would be, my kind of practical tips. And then, the other thing I would say is to just enjoy it, because the race itself is really hard, but the experience of it all it was really amazing. And to take in those moments and to really enjoy, the bike drop off and that time in transition and seeing all the vendors that are set up before the race, and all of that part of the experience was just really over the top and awesome. So to enjoy as much of that as you can, and to have that kind of help balance you out for what I promise you will be one of the toughest race courses you'll ever meet.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what's next for you?
Some well-needed downtime is next for me. I am, yes.
2.5 months isn't enough?
10.5 months is enough. I definitely was able to stay focused through the training, but now that Kona is over, I'm ready for some off time. I'm ready to just, I'm not going to stop working out. I'm not going to stop swimming and biking and running, because it's part of my life and it's what I love to do. But I'm going to definitely have a few weeks of no structure. I'm not following a plan. I'm just doing whatever feels good, whatever I like. I'm not looking at heart rate or pace or fueling or any of that. I'm just doing what feels good for my body and what I feel like doing for exercise that day. And I'm going to just enjoy that for a while, at least 2 to 3 weeks of no plan. And then after that, I'll start working with my coaches again and just, on a maintenance plan. Usually in maintenance time, I'm doing less volume and more drills in the pool, and less volume overall, and more strength training to just try to kind of build some muscle in the off season, because it's really hard to build or maintain any muscle when your volume of swim, bike, and run is high just to get through the Ironman, just to get through the distance. So try to work on building a little bit of muscle. And then just get a nice solid base going, so that by the time the new year hits, I can get started in training for whatever that next race is going to be. I don't really have a schedule or my plan set for next year yet. I'm going to run Boston. I usually run the Bay State Half Marathon, which is a big local half marathon here. Our New Bedford, but half marathon, sorry, not Bay State. So I'll do that in March. I'm going to run Boston. And then I've got, 70.3 world champs in the fall. So I need to figure out what my race plan is going to be, what my schedule is going to be for 2019. I don't really know what it's going to look like yet. But I'm going to just enjoy some downtime and get all that figured out.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. So we covered quite a bit about Kona. Do you have anything else you want to add?
Gosh. I don't think so. I mean, I think we covered pretty much everything. It was awesome. It was everything that I thought it would be and more. It was as fun as I thought it would be, and it was as hard as I thought it would be. So it was a great experience.
Wow. Well, just to wrap up, I mean, you've already been on a few times here, so I can't really ask the obvious question, but something different. What's the hardest workout that you've ever done?
Oh, man. I would say my hardest workouts are always in the pool because I just don't enjoy swimming as much as I enjoy cycling and running. No matter the workout, when I'm on my bike or running, I always manage to have a little bit of fun because I just enjoy those. But some of those long workouts in the pool are just not fun. And there's one workout in particular that my coaches have us do, and the title of the workout is Miles of Misery. So I just don't even know how you can even get amped up for a workout when you know the title is Miles of Misery. And so basically the workout is, there's some kind of warm up. I don't even remember what it is. And then the workout is swim a mile and then take a 2-minute recovery and then swim another mile faster than you swam the first one. So that is probably the workout that I dislike the most.
Wow.
Long, boring, swimming.
Wow. Well, Missy, thank you so much for coming back on, spending some time with me. I've enjoyed it. You'll have to send me some pictures so that way I can post up some pictures. I'm sure you have hundreds of them, and
I do.
I'll post all of them up that you send me. So
okay, sounds good.
However many you send me, I'll post it all up for you.
Okay,
so
cool.
that way it can all be in one place for you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much for spending some time with me, and I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to talk races with you, Terry.
Awesome. Have a good day, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Okay, thanks. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you were able to learn something from today's episode. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to leave a review on iTunes or share it with a friend. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you'd like to see pictures from this athlete's race, learn more about who I am, what I'm doing, or be on the show yourself to share your story, check out my website at CoachTerryWilson.com. Until next time, continue the pursuit.